Welcome to The Full View. I'm Mahendra Raghunath. Home Affairs Minister Malusi Gigaba says he will not resign unless the president asks him to. In an interview with SABC News this evening, Gigaba said he could not have approved the Fireblade terminal at the OR Tambo International Airport. The interview comes amid mounting pressure on the minister to resign after the public protector recommended that the president takes action against him for lying under oath in court in the Fireblade aviation case. The minister also, for the first time, responded publicly to a leaked private video. My colleague Kirshni Govender started by asking the minister if he had indeed lied.
The Constitutional Court appeal, that application that we submitted, did not concern itself with the issue of the alleged lies. It focused on the Fireblade operation and whether there was an approval by the Department of Home Affairs or not. The issue of the alleged lies had not been appealed. The opportunity to appeal it had been missed when my successor as Minister of Home Affairs decided that she was going to appeal all other matters which had been decided by the High Court, but leave out the issue of the statement by the judge that I had lied under oath. Now, the issue of lies arose as a statement of the judge in passing towards a ruling. It was not a ruling in itself. And perhaps for reasons I don't know, that's why the minister decided not, my successor decided not to appeal it. But unfortunately, because I was no longer Minister of Home Affairs, the opportunity to appeal that issue and have it set aside or corrected was then missed. And so I did not have an opportunity to clarify and correct the matter. The fact of the matter is that there is no record of the Department of Home Affairs or the Minister of Home Affairs having given approval in 2016 for Fireblade to operate. There are two important issues here. The first is that in a meeting of the 28th of January 2016, where we were updating the Fireblade about the letter we had received from Dinel, which was from the acting CEO of Dinel, where Dinel was saying that they were approving Fireblade to operate. We said to them that it seemed that a major hurdle had been removed, but that we still had to await other departments of government to respond, because we still needed the responses of the departments of health, of state security, the police, and other departments that are relevant to the port of entry environment. At that time, only the ministers of finance, the minister of transport, the minister of agriculture had responded, as well as AXA and SARS. Now, without those departments all indicating their preference, we were not going to be able to move in line with Cooperative Governance Act, as well as with the fact that if anything has to happen in a port of entry environment, you need other government departments to also give their nod. And so there was no approval we were going to give until we receive the response of those departments. But secondly, it would have been an anomaly for a minister as the executing authority to give approval on an application by a company for any operation, because such matters are applied for. There is competitive bidding, due process must be followed in terms of supply chain management, as well as the Public Finance Management Act. And so the minister would have acted out of kilt with his mandate and powers if he gave verbal approval. In actual fact, had I done so, both court and government would have had to find me guilty of overstepping my powers and doing things which I was not supposed to do, because there is no way in the Public Finance Management Act and Supply Chain Management where it is said ministers can meet with applications for transactions and give them verbal approvals on the basis of which then a contract is entered into. But if I had given an approval on the 28th of January 2016, why then did Fireblade on the 1st of April 2016 still write me a letter where they said they are still awaiting my approval. There is a gap.
Minister, just on that, just on the point,
should have been interrogated.
Minister, just on the point of the approval, the Oppenheimer family appeared before Parliament on Friday, and Mr. Nicky Oppenheimer is given a very different version. His son Jonathan as well. They say you gave them that approval in 2016, and I do have the transcript from those parliamentary proceedings here. Can you just clear up the confusion? Did you okay it or didn't you okay it? Because they are very certain that you gave them that verbal approval, and that's why they took the matter to court in the first place. Because they felt you reneged on that agreement.
I did not give any approval, Krishni. I did not give any approval. They are basing this on a set of minutes which they drafted of our meeting. Which minutes was their version of our meeting, and there is no way in those minutes where I appended my signature as my concurrence with the minutes which they had drafted. And I was not going to agree with their version of the meeting, because in government you do not approve any transaction by verbal agreement or by signing of minutes. Even in their own operations as a company, Anglo-American, they do not enter into major transactions by simply saying, yes, we agree, without companies following governance processes. There was no governance process followed in this regard, and therefore it would have been completely anomalous and illegal of me to give an approval. And that is why on the 1st of April, 4 months after the meeting of the 28th January 2016, Fireplate still wrote me a letter saying to me they are still awaiting my approval, and they even invited me to have coffee with them at the Fireplate, which I think did not happen. But it's also important to highlight that probably they then go further to say that they had received approval from 26 entities. Now, if they had received approval from 26 entities, why did they not bring to my attention that fact when we were busy meeting with them, discussing this issue, and I was saying to them, I'm still awaiting approval from other government departments. Now, it would seem to me that among the entities they claim had approved their application, it would be a letter from the former general manager of the ANC, Mr. Ignatius Jacobs, which was written to them, I think, in September or November 2015, where he gave them express approval to operate Fireplate, something which was completely outside his jurisdiction and the jurisdiction of the ANC, because the ANC is neither government nor the Department of Home Affairs, and therefore had no power, no jurisdiction over the matter. They could not approve an application by a company with regard to operations on an asset of government. And so if this letter was written, it's a fraudulent letter, and obviously the people involved need to be charged for corrupt activities, and the obtainment of this letter by Fireplate was a fraudulent and less than honest activity on their part. And probably these 26 entities would further include a letter from a junior official of the BCOCC who gave them an approval to operate Fireplate when he also had no jurisdiction, no power or mandate to give such an approval, because the Border Control Coordinating Committee is only a coordinating structure of the port of entries and not in itself a policy decision-making body, and the coordinator of the BCOCC is not an accounting officer. So the governance process would still have to be followed, even if the other departments would have given their note, which in this case, even by the time I left the Department of Home Affairs, had not been obtained.
Minister, it has been a tumultuous week for you, and I do appreciate you making time for us on the SABC News Desk. It can't be easy right now, but this explicit video that has been doing the rounds, tell us how that has impacted on your life thus far, both personally and professionally.
You know, I reported this invasion of my privacy to the police to the Independent Police Investigations Directorate. I reported it to the State Security Agency, and I reported it to the Inspector General. The video is under investigation as to how it and other transgressions which have been taking place in my private communications, in my cell phones and my emails have been taking place. As I speak to you, I'm a subject of successive transgression attempts on my communication mediums, my phones, my emails. There are various attempts to hack into them, to obtain information, I don't know for what purpose and by which entities. And I'm also compiling, I'm trying to compile some audits that will assist further in the investigations to assist the State Security Agency to conclude its investigations on these issues. Now, whether this is the only issue which has been stolen from my private communications, I cannot confirm at the present moment, because I also don't know. But the attempt to blackmail me politically and financially and extort money from me has absolutely failed. The people who did this, if they thought by doing this they were going to impair my person and humiliate me in public, they may have succeeded only to an extent. But if they hoped that I was going to sit back and start hiding and not fulfill my public responsibilities as a result of what they had done, well, they went completely wrong. Their plan backfired. I'm not going to hide, and I'm going to carry on with my life, because the issue here is I have not done wrong. The people who did a wrong are those who invaded my private communication and decided to try to humiliate me after failing to extort money from me and forcing me to back off from political activities.
Minister, you occupy public office. Your public and personal life is often under scrutiny. Why would you make a recording like this in the first place?
Well, there are many people, you would be surprised that there are many people who do such recordings with their partners. There is nothing wrong which I did. I have every right to be as romantic as I want with my wife. To say to me, why do you make a recording like this when I'm communicating with my wife, is like asking someone why, as a public person or as a priest or as a journalist, do you engage in sex with your partner? That's a completely awkward question, and I think that everybody who doesn't have a romantic sexual engagement with their partners are the ones who need to be scrutinized, not me. I did absolutely nothing wrong. I have every right to be as romantic with my partner as possible.
Do you feel, I just want to garner your thoughts on this one, that politicians like yourself remain answerable to the public or the electorate they serve when they mess up in their private lives? And can we trust a politician who can't be trusted to keep his sex life private?
I did not make my sex life public. Someone hacked my phone and tried to extort money from me. Upon failing, they released the video to opposition politicians who then made it public. So if someone were to install cameras into your house unbeknown to you, and then on the basis of that, they try to extort money from you and then make those public, and even go on to claim that you were sending that to some poor student who has never even met you in their lives, having claimed that you are also having a sexual relationship with a 16-year-old whom you have been sending money, trying to spread lies about you. What wrong have you done? If somebody installs cameras into your bedroom or your shower and tries to extort money from you and make those public, there's nothing wrong you have done. You've behaved very correctly.
Minister, I hear you, and most South Africans are in agreement that your dignity has been violated, your privacy infringed, with a video that has no public interest justification. But how are you going to regain public trust and faith from South Africans at this point. Can you come back from this?
I have public faith. I have received overwhelming public support together with my wife, and we have nothing to be ashamed of. We will continue to be as romantic. The only thing really that South Africans know now is that we are so very romantic with one another. Really, we are shameless about how we are romantic with one another. If somebody tries to invade our public space again, it may not be in the form of hacking our phones, because quite clearly we need to be careful about that now. But if somebody were to come to our house and install cameras, it doesn't mean that we now need to stop using our bedroom because somebody has invaded our bedroom and now start saying that, oh, you've invaded our bedroom and therefore our our integrity has been infringed. We really have absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. You can look at me and think about the video. That's your problem. I don't have a problem. I really don't have a problem.
Minister, do you think all this current negative publicity embarrasses your political home, the African National Congress, organizationally and as a government overall?
No, it does. It was intended, let me say, to embarrass me, to decapacitate me politically, to humiliate me and my family publicly, and to embarrass the African National Congress. But as I have been saying, there seems to be an avalanche of attack on me and my person with a view, with great haste, to remove me, to eradicate me from the public sphere for reasons which I do not understand. But all of which I guess are related to the future of the movement and the country. But I don't think that I am going to take that lying down, because I know that once those people who are trying to do that are done with me, they are going to move on to the next person. And so for me, the issue is I need to fight on and ensure that I defend the right of the ANC not to be blackmailed by people by trying to humiliate its leaders in public in this or another form. And we need to continue trying to do our best to live up to what is expected of us. And so, yes, the ANC could have been embarrassed, but the ANC doesn't come into our private space, because every single member of the ANC, believe you me, does have a private space, and so nobody has got a right to judge what people do in private, because even those in the opposition, priests, people in the religious fraternity, people in the media, broadcasting or print media, people in every sphere do have private lives, and what they do in private should remain in private. And if somebody tries to drag that from the private sphere into the public space, then that is wrong. And what happened to me has happened to a number of other people, and some of them were even forced by public humiliation to step aside out of humiliation. There have been instances where people have committed suicide because they felt that they were humiliated that much. It's something that the country needs to deal with. Extortion, blackmail, invasion of privacy of people, it's something that we should not be tolerant of.
I gather from your tone that stepping down from your post or resignation is not on the agenda for you right now. Is it possible at all, or how do you respond to those who might argue that you are placing your personal interests above that of the African National Congress government you serve?
You know, I was deployed by the ANC, and like any other person who is deployed, I am subject to the discipline of the African National Congress and its decisions. I serve in the National Executive at the pleasure of the President, and I will continue to do so long as the President wishes me to, or so long as the ANC wishes me to, and if either the President or the African National Congress asks me to step aside, I will with humility do so. And so that is my point in this regard. I think the question of personal interests, those are very complex issues, because where do they start? Am I the first person to face issues either of this or other nature? Am I the only one in the national executive to face this or other personal issues? Does it mean that all of those people also need to step down? How far are you prepared to go? As I keep saying, the ANC does not act arbitrarily in relation to its members and cadres. It listens to them, it considers their point of view and all matters fairly and justly, and then takes a correct decision. And I think in this regard, it will also give me a fair hearing so that I can state my case before it can take a decision about what should happen.
Minister, what aspects of the negative publicity we've heard around you these past 2 weeks do you actually accept personal responsibility for?
Look, this is a complex issue. If you consider the fact that there are allegations that I lied, and I have proven to you that I did not lie. There was no approval given for Fireblade to operate. If there was on the 28th of January 2016, then why on the 1st of April 2016 there was a letter from the same Fireblade asking me still to approve? So where is the lie here? Secondly, if somebody has invaded your privacy, I didn't invite them, and I'm on record as having reported the matter. So what part of negative publicity in this regard did I go out to invite myself? The issue of the lies was not a judgment, a ruling. It was a statement towards the ruling. And it was not appealed when I was no longer Minister of Home Affairs, and I therefore did not have opportunity to input on the matter. And so in this regard, I have not been heard. And all I'm saying is I need to be heard on this issue. And I think in this regard, if I am heard, the facts favor me. And so I think that that issue will be eliminated. If it is argued that on the 28th of January I gave verbal approval, then the ANC should find me wrong of having acted outside the ambit of the Public Finance Management Act and the Supply Chain Management and usurped the powers of the accounting officer, who is the Director General. In this regard, the Director General, then Mr. Apleni, and now Mr. Mavuso, who is acting, both are saying we did not sign any submission which approved Fireblade to operate because the process had not been started and the governance process had not been concluded.